Today I want to talk about Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is a game that was made by Konami back in the 90s, and it follows the story of Solid Snake, who is a character who a lot of people that have been growing up with the age of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and all that, they know Solid Snake as the stealth guy. And in this particular scenario, you it's many years later, and he's recruited by Foxhound, who is this organization that they do stuff, kind of like covert things, like military things, and he's like the guy, the like one of the dudes in Foxhound's like, yo, you definitely gotta go figure out what's going on, because like a couple of these Foxhound guys have gone rogue. One of them is named Liquid Snake, and he's almost got the same name as you, but not really. And Snake's like, what? And he's like, doesn't matter, go figure it out. And Solid Snake's like, all right, sure. But first, we're going to give you like a full physical and inject you with this stuff, and it's definitely not Fox dye or anything. And Snake's like, okay, I'll buy that. The game starts, you arrive on the island, which is where the rogue Foxhound guys have holed themselves up. It's like this abandoned military nuclear weapons, storage facility. And Snake, he goes and he's just trying to figure out what's going on. So he wanders a little bit, and the main guy kind of gives him some tips along the way. He's like, yo, go check this out. Your first objective is to find the DARPA chief, which is like a made-up name. I don't think the DARPA chief is a real thing. Well, maybe it is. I'm not sure. But he's like, first you got to find the DARPA chief. So you find the DARPA chief on the island, and DARPA chief's like, hey, did you hear about Metal Gear? And Solid Snake's like, I know all about Metal Gear. And he's like, really? And Snake's like, yeah. And he's like, well, have you heard about Metal Gear Rex? And Snake's like, no. And he's like, it's this ultimate weapon thing. And the terrorists, they want to like put a nuclear missile on it and like blow something up. And Snake's like, that sounds like bullshit. So he's like, all right, I'll go figure out what's going on. But then like the DARPA chief dies of a heart attack or something. And Snake's like, what the fuck was that? And all the other people were like, I don't know what you're talking about. It sounds like a heart attack. And Snake's like, I don't know about all that, guys, but whatever. So after you're done with the DARPA chief, you meet up with Merrill, who is the colonel, who is like the main dude in the operation. It's like his niece/daughter. He says it's his niece. She's his niece, but it's really his daughter. But you don't find that out until later. And they meet up, and she's like, the fuck is going on? What are you doing here? And Snake's like, well, what are you doing here? And she's like, shut up. I'm like a big military person. And Snake's like, all right, whatever. You want to shoot this guy? And she's like, no, I'm a woman. And he's like, stop being a bitch. Why don't you just go kill that guy? And she's like, oh, no. And she kills the guy. And she's like, oh my god, I killed someone. And Snake's like, stop being a bitch. So, they like fight all these guys, and then she's like, all right, I'm peacing out. I'll see you later. And he's like, wait. But then he like stares at her ass for a while or something. And then he sees like this illusion, which is Psycho Mantis, which is one of the other Foxhound guys. And he's like, yo, I think I had a hallucination. And the guys were like, no, that was Psycho Mantis. What are you talking about? And Snake's like, what? And they're like, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out later. And he's like, all right, fine. So the next objective that not the DARPA chief, the colonel gives, he's like, you got to find the president of Arms Tech, Kenneth Baker, who like designed Metal Gear. And Snake's like, all right, fine. I don't see how this has anything to do with stopping terrorists, but sure. So you go and find Kenneth Baker, and he's like, yeah, this thing was definitely meant for launching nuclear missiles and blowing up the world. And Snake's like, that's probably not a good idea And Kenneth Baker's like, whatever, I like money. And then Snake is like, all right, I'll get you out of here. But then, like, Kenneth Baker just straight up dies, the same way as the DARPA chief did. And everyone's like, yeah, still a heart attack. It's definitely not Fox die or anything. And Snake's like, sure, I'll buy that. So at this point, Kenneth Baker tells you to find Hal Emmerich, who is the main engineer of Metal Gear Rex. And he's like, yeah, he's in his lab probably into the north. So you travel to the north, but like on the way there, you encounter this like cyborg ninja dude, but before that, when you meet Kenneth Baker, you fight Revolver Ocelot, who is like this gunslinger dude. And he's like, I love the Colt Single Action Army. I love this gun. It's awesome. I love slamming a long silver bullet into a well-greased chamber. And Snake's like, what? That sounds a little gay. And the Revolver Ocelot's like, shut up. But then at that point, the cyborg ninja just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, I'm going to take your hand, bitch. And so he slices off Revolver Ocelot's hand. And he's like, what the fuck? All right, I'm leaving. Bye. So you meet up with the cyborg ninja again as you're trying to find Hal Emmerich and to the north. And he's like, yo, Snake, make me feel alive again, guys. And Snake's like, what? And the cyborg's like, yeah, I love it. I love fighting. But I'm going to go crazy. And he just like totally flips out. And he talks about like not having his medicine or whatever. And then he takes off. And Snake's like, that was weird. And so then he meets with Hal Emmerich, who was hiding in the locker and pissed his pants and shit. And he's like, oh, are you an otaku too? And Snake's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, never mind. I made Metal Gear Rex. So what do you want to know? And Snake's like, so can this thing really launch nuclear weapons? And Hal's like, what are you talking about? And Snake's like, dude, Kenneth Baker fucking told me that this thing was supposed to launch nuclear weapons. And Hal's like, I had nothing to do with that. What the fuck are you talking about? And Snake's like, you really didn't know you made this thing? And Hal's like, I don't know, I'm just a big pussy. And Snake's like, shut up, bitch. And Hal's like, no. And Snake's like, all right. Well, now that you know, how do I disable the thing? And he's like, you gotta go use this card thing and it'll like disable it. And Snake's like, I kind of heard that from Kenneth Baker and I got this card key from him, but like, I don't know how to use it. And Hal's like, well, I'm not gonna tell you because I don't even know either. And Snake's like, what? And he's like, all right, I'm out of here, bye. And so you continue on your way to where Metal Gear is being held. It's in this big hangar thing to the north, further to the north. And like on your way there, you meet up with Meryl again, and she like is like she tells you her like sob story, how her like father beat her or whatever. But that's not really true. That's a vague story. But she like grew up thinking she could be a soldier or something, and Snake's like, whatever, let's just fucking go. So they start going, but then they run into the commander's room, and that's when you meet Psycho Mantis, and Meryl's like, ooh, I want your cock, Snake. And Snake's like, hell yeah, bitch. But it's actually Psycho Mantis controlling her. So you gotta fight Psycho Mantis, and you beat the shit out of him, and he's like, yo, I could read minds since I was a baby, and I peered into my dad's mind, and he hated me since I was a baby. And he's like, what do I say to that? Like, this is a fucking psychiatrist therapy session. And Snake's like, I don't have time for this. Just fucking die. So Psycho Mantis dies. And are we almost at 10 minutes?
Yes, I'll stop right now.
Alright, we'll stop. Continue on part 2. See you. Okay, so part 2. The Psycho Mantis dies, and now you're with Meryl again. Meryl's okay, and so you start heading towards the hangar again. But on the way, you're like at this communications tower thing, and Meryl gets shot in the face by a sniper Wolf, who's another one of the Foxhound bitches, and Snake's like, no, I gotta save Meryl. And Campbell, the chief, the colonel, he's like, no, that's my daughter, but I won't tell you that until the end of the game. And Snake's like, I'll definitely save her. And so you go back, get the sniper rifle, and you come back and you shoot Sniper Wolf in the face. And then you continue onward, and then you get caught by the guards, and Sniper Wolf and Revolver Ocelot capture you. And then Revolver Ocelot, he tortures you in this torture chamber. He electrocutes you and shit. And this is the point where you decide whether Meryl lives or dies, because they captured her at this point. So if you decide to submit, then Meryl dies. But if you endure the torture, then Meryl lives. So at this point, this is a decision you have to make, I guess. And then, they throw you in jail. And then eventually you break out of jail. Hal brings you this, ketchup and tuna or whatever. And he puts the ketchup on the floor. And the guard's like, what the fuck's going on? And this thing's like, surprise, bitch, I was faking it. Boom! He cracks him across the dome. And then you escape. And so at this point, the game kind of opens up. You can do whatever you want, but the main thing is you gotta go to the communications tower again and start heading towards the hangar where Metal Gear is being held. So you continue on your way. You go up the communications tower, and you eventually get to the hangar. But first, you fight Sniper Wolf one more time, and she gives you her fucking sob story. And Snake's like, I don't give a fuck. And Hal's like, no, Sniper Wolf, I loved you. And Snake's like, why? She tried to kill us. And Hal's like, but I got Stockholm Syndrome. And Snake's like, whatever. So now you've made it to the hangar at this point. And this is the part where Hal hacks into the files of Kenneth Baker, and he finds out that the key that you got is a shape memory alloy. That's what he calls it. Basically, at different temperatures, the key changes shapes, I guess, and you got to put it into the computer, and that will arm or disarm the Metal Gear. So up the whole game, basically, they're like, oh yeah, we definitely got the detonation codes, and we're ready to launch this shit. But it turns out that that never happened. They never got the codes because, surprise, surprise, the DARPA chief wasn't a real guy. It was actually Decoy Octopus who, injected the DNA of the DARPA chief into his body because they were, torturing the DARPA chief, but they accidentally killed him so they could never get the codes. So they were, manipulating Snake up to this point, being like, yeah, we definitely got the codes. So can you, we were just lying, so can you just, use the keys to activate Metal Gear for us? That'd be great. And Snake's he has no fucking idea. So he's thinking he's disarming Metal Gear Rex. But he actually ends up arming Metal Gear Rex by putting in the card keys. And then once it happens, Snake's like, what the fuck? I disarmed it. And then, Liquid Snake, he, calls up on the codec and he's like, thanks, Snake. That was very kind of you. And Snake's like, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, by the way, I'm not Donald Miller. I'm actually Liquid Snake. I'm going to take my glasses off. Ha ha! So Snake's like, what the fuck? Why? And he's like, cause I'm mad at you because you got the dominant genes, because we're clones and brothers and shit from Big Boss. We're test tube babies and shit. And Snake's like, I don't remember any of that. And he's like, it's definitely true. So Liquid Snake, he jumps into Metal Gear Rex and he's like, let's fight, Snake. And Snake's like, well, this is what I've been waiting for. So he beats the shit out of Metal Gear Rex, But first, the ninja, who turns out to be Gray Fox, who is Naomi Hunter's brother, kind of, not really, but he saved her back many years ago in the NES era. And he shows up and he just he helps out, but like he dies because Metal Gear Rex just fucking stomps him, and Snake's like, "No, Gray Fox!" and Liquid Snake's like, "Haha, it sucks to be him. Let's fight some more." So you get your rocket launcher out and you just fucking shoot him up, and he blows up. But like Liquid Snake's like, "Oh, I ain't done yet. We gotta keep talking and fighting. So I'm gonna tell you about why I did this, because I want to get Big Boss's remains so I can like perfect my army and like rule the world or whatever." And Snake's like, "That's a poorly made plan." And Liquid's like, "Shut up, let's fight." So you get into like a fist fight on top of Metal Gear's remains, and then you like knock him off the shit, and he falls. He's like, "Snake, no!" And this is the point where you find out if Meryl is alive or dead. And so if you survive the torture, Meryl is alive, but if you submit, then she's dead. So I'm going to assume that Meryl's alive. So Meryl is like laying there. And she's like, "Oh, Snake, you saved me." And Snake's like, "Yeah, bitch, we're going to fuck later." And so, but like the whole thing starts to collapse because like Colonel informs us that the airplanes are coming and there's gotta be some bombings and shit, and Snake's like, "Yo, we gotta get the fuck out of here." And excuse me. And so you start to leave, excuse me again, and you start to leave, and Liquid just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, "Snake, we ain't done yet." And Snake's like, "What the fuck? Why are you not dead?" And so they got like this you're like on this Jeep and you got this like mounted machine gun and you're like shooting at them, and then eventually like you leave and there's like a big accident or something, and Liquid is like, "Snake, I'm still alive, but Fox died, no, I'm dead." Oh. So this is kind of the end of the game, but first I never talked about Fox Die. So here's the deal with Fox Die. Fox Die is this virus that attacks the heart, and like it simulates a heart attack. And basically Naomi Hunter, who was like part of this operation as like your support, she's like a traitor. And this is something I should have talked about like 5 minutes ago, but I forgot. Naomi Hunter is found out as a traitor. She was mad because she thought that Gray Fox was dead, and you killed him back in like Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake, which is like an NES/MSX game. And she's like mad at you, so she injected Fox Die into you to like hopefully kill you. But it ended up just killing everyone else instead. So like that happened, and Liquid Snake gets killed by Fox Die in the end. And then like Snake is like, "Well, when am I gonna die?" And Naomi's like, "Well, I was wrong about you, so I made sure that you didn't die, but you're gonna die eventually." And Snake's like, "Well, that's incredibly convoluted, but okay." So you know the game's over at this point. So Meryl and Snake, they like get on like a jet ski together or whatever, or a snowmobile. And, you know, Snake is all, like, philosophical at this point. He's like, "Yeah, it's all in the genes. You gotta, like, live your life or whatever." And Meryl's like, "All right, sure, that sounds good." And he's like, "Yeah, and I love you, Meryl." And Meryl's like, "That's cool." So they take off into the sunset, and then, like, that's the end of the game. But, like, at the last couple minutes after the credits, it turns out that Revolver Ocelot was, like, working for the president all along. And the president, like, knew about this shit. And everyone like played the games like, "What? Fucking Kojima." That's the end of the game. Pretty fun game. A little odd, but that's classic Kojima. Later.